Welcome to Jamie TV, where we do not pissy pants about. Today we're going to take a look at A2M, which stands for Audio to Midi, an app which will take your audio source, whether it be your voice or whatever instrument you happen to be particularly adept at playing, and convert that audio to MIDI in real time, meaning that you can use it to play one of the apps on your iPad or iPhone, and you can also record that MIDI, which is how I did that little looping session at the beginning of this video, which we'll take a bit of a deeper look at later on in this video. Of course, you could also use it to do something a bit mental like this. Okay, now before we get stuck into having a look at how A2M actually works, let's have a look how I routed that project you were just hearing. Here's where my microphone comes into AUM from my iRig Pro Duo I/O interface, and then it hits A2M, and that source audio is then changed into MIDI information. The MIDI information is sent to Scalebud, which is set to chord mode, so it's taking those root notes and changing them into chords relative to the key of C minor. The MIDI information for those chords is then sent to these three instances of iSymphonic. They're all receiving the same channel, and I'm using the sounds Choir R, Classic Choir 1, and Full Strings 1. iSymphonic has some beautiful sounds available in it. Sadly, its AUV3 interface is incredibly limited. All three instances then hit an instance of Spatializer. If you haven't seen my demo on Spatializer, I'll put a link above. I'm using Spatializer to send those iSymphonic sounds to different parts of the stereo picture. And then at the end of each chain, I have an instance of Stratosphere, which is just a beautiful long tail reverb. So, what I'm doing then is I'm singing into here, but what I've done is I've dragged this to the side, which I can't do right now because I'm using this channel to speak to you, so that you're not actually hearing my pissy pants little voice. Now let's take a look at how I was able to use A2M to make it possible for me to perform that little looping session at the beginning of the video using my guitar to play drums and synths. Okay, let's have a look at how we actually set A2M up. We need some source audio coming into our host app here, and we open A2M in an effects slot. We deal with the audio that's coming in on this side of the app, and on this side of the app we make our choices for the MIDI output. Now at the top of the audio side, we have this, what I thought was a left and right selection tool. I thought this would toggle between the inputs coming in on my interface, but we can make that selection in AUM here, so maybe that's irrelevant because it doesn't actually seem to do anything no matter which side of my interface I'm plugged into. Maybe this is for one of the other host apps, but I don't have any of the other apps that can host A2M, so I'm afraid I can't check that for you. Now here we set the input gain. I can't tell you where to set this because each real instrument is going to be quite different. All I can tell you is have a little pissy pants about with it and get a good strong signal coming into A2M. It works much better with a good strong signal coming in. Now getting the gate threshold set right is going to make or break this app for you. The way to do this is set the gate threshold way up to the top like this. Now at the moment, no audio is going to get through to the MIDI side of this app. What you do is creep it down until some sound gets through and triggers your AUV3 instrument. If you set it too low and you're playing something like a guitar, just accidentally catching a string, making a slight noise, little bit of string noise. If you're singing, just breathing can make an accidental note creep through. So set it real high and sing or play and creep it down until good loud strong notes are getting through, and then you know that when you want to make the AUV3 instrument make a sound, you make a good, strong, loud note. On the MIDI side of your app, this to me kind of foxed me a bit. Here we have 2 pitch recognition methods to choose from, and I've read the explanation of this and it doesn't make any sense to me. It's an explanation for clever people, and I'm not clever people. I'll read it to you and maybe you will understand it. So on this side it says, based on autocorrelation, the beat bar's proprietary method. And on this side it says, with parabolic interpolation. Now I don't know what that means, but that doesn't stop me from using the app successfully. All I do is when I'm messing about with an instrument trying to get this to work successfully for me, I just have a pissy pants about switching between the two, and I find the method that works best for that instrument. Now here we balance between latency and accuracy. Obviously we don't want too much latency, we don't want those MIDI notes to be lagging behind too far what we're actually playing, and we want things to be nice and accurate, but we have to find a nice balance between the two, and I've found that the factory preset position in most cases is the best balance between those two things for my iPad. The more accuracy you asked for, the more processing power it will use. So maybe on a more powerful iPad you can drag this little white dot a little further over to the right. In this window here it will tell you what note you are currently playing, and you can use this button here to switch between whether you want the black notes to show up as sharps or as flats. And the velocity gain control here will set the level of your AUV3 instrument's output. So how did I make that little looping session at the beginning of this video work? Well, actually it's really quite straightforward. First of all, I just chose the instruments that I wanted to be able to play using my guitar as like a MIDI controller. So I chose 3 sounds in shape of synth, a bass, a sound effect and a lead sound, and I opened up HammerHead and I set up a kick, a snare and a hat. I got all the effects and all the levels ready. Then what I did was, my guitar's coming in here and A2M is changing my guitar sound into MIDI information, and that is then routed to the front of Helium here. Now inside of Helium I was using 4 of the piano rolls, and I can switch between them by selecting here. So I just press on track 1 and I can switch it over to track 2, 3, 4, etc. Now when I make that change, whichever instrument that piano roll is routed to, my guitar will then play that instrument, and I've got a loop set up and Helium synced to A2M. So when I press play, it's just going to loop round and round one bar. So all I did was I laid down a bar of drums and then a bar of bass. I threw on a sound effect, and then I selected track 4, but I switched off record. But this piano roll is routed to the lead sound I wanted to use in shape of synth here. I'm a little behind with my video making at the moment because it's the summer holidays, so I've got my kids to look after during the day when I would normally be making videos. So there are a few apps that I haven't quite got to yet, and one of those is Shaper Synth. And I really can't wait to make a proper video about Shaper Synth just to show you just how awesome it really is. In the meantime, I've been including it in as many videos as possible, and I'm using it again as much as I can in this one, and in fact it features quite strongly in this next demo. So notice Shaper Synth, notice just how awesome it sounds. So what did the stupid old hippie really think to A2M? Well, most importantly, I had a lot of fun with it, and fun is the most important thing to have. It's very underrated, you know. But also I found it very useful. To me, the very idea that I could open up an app like, say, World Synth, which contains a lot of instruments which to me are strange and unusual instruments that I may never ever get to lay my hands on, and I could play those instruments with like a guitar, which I'm already reasonably adept at. That's a very, very exciting prospect. But it's not without its certain little limitations, which I think most people would expect from an app like this. It can't cope with slides, it can't cope with vibrato on guitar or voice. It does take a certain amount of pissy panting about with to get the levels right at the beginning so that you're not getting any accidental notes, and it will make you play slightly differently. Like on the guitar, I was having to play very carefully and remind myself all the time not to do bends or vibrato. If you're singing, it will make you sing kind of maybe more accurately. Whatever, I just found those things a challenge and exciting and interesting. So I hope that I've done a reasonable job of explaining this app to you. I think that its advantages far outweigh those little niggles. If I have missed anything, if you'd like to ask any questions about it, then by all means comment below the video. I always reply and I will help you. You may, if you wish, check out the information underneath the video about how you can help out the channel. Check out my website, my merchandise, my music, my Patreon, all of that stuff. So until my next video, take care of yourselves and be good people, make lots of music, and do not pissy pants about. See you later.